صلوات على محمد وعلى محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
Please recite a Surah Al-Fatiha for the following Marhumin Ishaq Ali Mirza, Tilawat Ali Mirza, son of Mirza Muhammad Ali Beg, and Sima Bana Mirza. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعمه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون، الذي لا يدركه بعد الهمام ولا يناله غوص الفتن، الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نعت موجود ولا وقت معدود ولا أجل ممدود، فطر الخلائق بقدرته ونشر الرياح بالرحمة وبطل بالصخور ميدان أرضه، ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على النبي الأمي القرشي الهاشمي المكي المدني سيدنا ومولانا وطبيب قلوبنا والشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الميامين المنتجبين، لا سيما بقية الله الأعظم في الأرضين، أرواحنا وأرواح العالمين لمقدمه الفداء. أما بعد، ربي ألحمني التقوى وانطقني بالهدى. صلوات على محمد وعلى
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
ومن المؤمنات السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام.
Thank you, brother, for that brief introduction. And all the Midwest blends into one big piece of glacier snow, so don't worry about it. The important thing is, tomorrow we'll have Hussein Day, as the brother mentioned, and these kind of flyers will be handed out with the rubber band, and this will be on the water bottles that will be given out. And those of you who are volunteering, inshallah, I plan to be there in the morning tomorrow. And the rest of us who are volunteering, we should be aware, and inshallah after the speech we'll talk informally about what are the things that we can say, what are the types of questions that people will ask, and what are the types of short introductions that you need to give to everybody else about this. And about the movement, of course, as you know, the Hussein is now a global movement, is worldwide everywhere. I'm not sure, I'm sure Brother Astin might have the statistics on it later on, but it started from England, if I'm not mistaken, and now it's all over this country. I've participated myself in this procession here in California before, in Hussein Day at campus, and it's in all the major cities in this country. It's in England, it's in Canada, I believe some parts of South America, Africa, Europe, and so on and so on. So that's something important to pay attention to, and inshallah we can make a difference in the life of humanity and other people by educating them about the message of Abdullah Hussein. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
So inshallah we wrap up our discussion of these 3 days, very brief discussion. The first day, every time we have a new crowd, so I just want to kind of refresh some of you who were not here for the last 2 days. We spoke about the importance of love and the manifestation of love of the Ahlul Bayt on Thursday, and how is it that we can make sure that their love is shown in our lives, which is an important ingredient. It is wajib from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have that love in our hearts. Secondly, we spoke yesterday about this concept of violence with which the Muslimin are consistently associated, and Islam is associated. And we realized that the verses of war in the Holy Quran are verses that have two qualities. One of them, they are for defense of Muslimin, that when a certain pact was made with non-Muslims and that pact was broken, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands the Muslimin to defend themselves and to honor that pact by doing whatever is that pact called for at that time. The second thing that we said is that the other religious scriptures, including the Bible, have a lot more descriptions of violence and calls to violence for different reasons. And the third thing that we said, that no society is imagined without violence completely. The use of force in Islam, when the Imam of our time comes, and in a ideally Islamic government, there is a proper use of force like we have in this country. We have prisons, we have other uses of force that are being used and misused in this country. But any use of force by any state, any society in Islam, according to the principles of the Quran, must have this concept of justice, which we said was extremely important. And today we want to wrap up briefly this discussion and speak about an important topic, which we will continue with. Salawat ala Muhammad wa alayhi. So keeping aside the love of the Ahlul Bayt, we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran in Surah Al-Jumu'ah, هُوَ الَّذِي بَعْثَ فِي الْأُمِّينَ رَسُولًا مِّنْهُمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَإِنْ كَانُوا مِنْ قَبْلُ لَفِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He is the one, in Surah Al-Jumu'ah He says, who has sent to the unlettered people, to the people who did not have a scripture or a book, He has sent to them a prophet from them who purifies them and then teaches them the book, and He teaches them the wisdom. And before this teaching and before this arrival of the Holy Prophet, these people were in manifest darkness, they were in open deviation, they did not have any guidance. So our topic today is basically the Holy Quran and the importance of the Holy Quran and the place of the Holy Quran in our lives, and how is it that we can apply and understand the Holy Quran. The treasure that we have here, the ocean that we have here, the important book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we have here, we have not used or tapped or recited or known in a very deep way. And it's very possible for us to access this holy book, and we will try to see some of the reasons and some of the ways how and why we can do this. Salawat ala Muhammad wa alayhi. The first thing, which is the duty of the Holy Prophet, when he has arrived and when he has come into this society, and his message is everlasting for all of humanity until the rising, until the Qiyamah, is that it is to purify. It is to purify firstly, because he says in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this verse, the Prophet purifies them and then teaches them the book and the knowledge. So any reception of knowledge, any reception of ilm, any reception of the verses of the Holy Quran have a prerequisite, correct? When you go to classes, when you take courses in college, there are some courses which you must take before others. The course will say there is a prerequisite, correct? Am I right? Alhamdulillah, most of us have and do go to college. But when we do that, we see that there's a prerequisite. Why? Because the class that you take before prepares you for the material that is coming after. When you go to that second class, that advanced class, you will not be aware of the basics of that science which you are attending or you're taking before. You need the principles of that, and then those principles you need to apply in your advanced class, and you need to get more advanced, which is very common to every single discipline that we have. So the same way in Islam, you have this purification, you have this tazkiyah. And you see the manifestation of this purification in Karbala, and in these days of mourning of Abdullah Hussein leading up to our plane where we are. We see that on one side there is the camp of the Muslimin, or so-called Muslimin, who externally pray, who externally fast, who externally perform the Hajj, who ritually and externally they appear to you like Muslims. And this camp is not the camp of Abdullah Hussein, but it is the camp of Banu Umayyah. It is the other camp, where we see that these people on the outside are not following any other religion. They're not polytheists, they're not mushrikeen, they're not Christians, they're not Jews, but they are people who nominally accept Islam, right? When the time for Salat on the day of Ashura came, the other camp was praying, as well as the camp of Abdullah Hussein. When Hur himself came to Abdullah Hussein a few days before Ashura, there was an event that happened which changed the idea and the mind of Hur completely. And that was performing the prayer with Abdullah. When Hur was sent, the general of the Umayyad army was sent by Yazid to prevent Abdullah Hussein from getting to Kufa, he blocked the path of Imam Hussein to Kufa. When he did this, the time for Zohar came on that day. And he said, Imam Hussein said, it is time for Zohar. Will you pray separately or will you pray with us? And Hur said, no, we will pray behind you. So he went and he prayed behind Imam Hussein. in the land of Karbala. But that prayer, how long does it take to pray Zohar and Asr? How long does it take? 15 minutes? And if you're a traveler, how long does it take? Half of that, correct? So half of 15 minutes it took for Hur to perform that prayer behind Abu Abdullah Hussein. But that led him to a realization. That began a revolution and a change inside Hur that took him to his conclusion on the night of Ashura. That he said, I will not remain with this army. I will go and move on to the army of Abu Abdullah Hussein. So that purification happened in his mind. That happened for him in a different way. He was thinking, he was pondering, but it began with that salat of Abu Abdullah Hussein. It began with that prayer behind Abu Abdullah Hussein. That was his moment of purification. And then that night of Ashura, when he goes to Abu Abdullah Hussein, when he speaks, then the knowledge and the kitab comes. And Imam Hussein stresses for him his own position as the Imam, his own position as the successor of the Holy Prophet, his own position as the son of Amir al-Mu'mineen. So the knowledge of the philosophy came after, you will agree with me, and before came this moment of tazkiyah, or this moment of purification, which was praying behind Abu Abdullah Hussein. Salawat ala Muhammad wa alayhi.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa alayhi Muhammad.
Keeping that in mind, we also see that this purification which this Holy Quran is speaking about also comes and also appears in one of the khutbahs, one of the sermons of Abul Fadl Abbas on the night of Ashura. Very short and very powerful khutbah and sermon that Abul Fadl Abbas gives to the opposing force. He stands up and for a long time he rants and he speaks about their different attributes, and in one of those aspects he says that Ya nasmat al-fujur wa ya rudha al-khumur fatadarru ila rabbikum an yutila alaykum al-layla sarmadan ila yawm al-qiyamah. He says, O you people of hypocrisy, O you people who are given completely to pleasures, O you people who have nothing in your lives except the gaining of this world, and you have no conception of the next world. Is he speaking to Bani Umayyah? And O you people, O Rudwa'i Khumur, those who have been fed wine or alcohol when they were children. Instead of the milk of their mothers, they were given wine or alcohol. So this is a metaphor that Abul Fadl Abbas is using for these people. And then he says to them, go and pray to your Lord that he should spread this night for you, the night of Ashura, until the Qiyamah, because if the morning of Ashura comes, laysa lakumul aman, there is no safety for you. There is no safety for you. Did Abul Fadl Abbas not know that tomorrow will be the day of Ashura? Yes or no? He knew, right? Correct? Did he not know that tomorrow he will become shaheed? He knew this? Yes or no? He did. But why is he saying to them that tomorrow, on the day of Ashura, you will have no safety? Because their impurities, because their lack of purity to approach the Holy Quran and the Ahlul Bayt shows their lack of understanding of Islam, their lack of understanding the religion that they are claiming to follow or they claim to follow. That it is actually in the eyes of Abul Fadl Abbas, the purity, having that tazkiyah, having that purity through the Holy Quran, through the knowledge of the Holy Quran and the ma'rifah of the Ahlul Bayt. Both these things which were together in the land of Karbala, where Abu Abdullah's head on that spear was reciting the Holy Quran over and over again. So that purity again is stressed by Abul Fadl Abbas in this land of Karbala. Salawat ala Muhammad wa alayhi.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa alayhi Muhammad.
So the purpose of the arrival of the Holy Prophet, the coming of the Holy Prophet into this world, is to teach us the Holy Quran, and before that it is to purify us. I'll give you another example of how this appeared in the life of the Holy Prophet. There was once a man whose name was Aswad bin Harith, and he came from a different place to the city of Medina, and his occupation was to sell horses. He used to sell horses. He bought a beautiful horse. You know, the Arabs are known for their horses, correct? They're known for their Arabian horses. He brought this beautiful stallion with him, and the Holy Prophet was there, and the Holy Prophet looked at his horse and he said, Aswad, where have you brought this from? Aswad said, I brought this from such and such a place. What do you plan to do with it? Oh, Prophet of Allah, I want to sell it. sell this horse. The Prophet said, how much? And the negotiation began for this much and that much. And finally the price settled at 200 dinars. 200 dinars, okay? You all have heard this word dinar, correct? Anyone knows the difference between dinar and dirham at that time? Yes.
Two different currencies.
Two different currencies, and they're made of what metals? The dirham is made of silver, very good, and the dinar is made of gold. So 200 gold coins, which is more than 200 silver coins. It's very expensive. And that is how much money this horse was going to cost. And the Prophet said, okay, we have agreed to 200 dinar. I will go and gather the money. I will go and find the money from different sources. Stay with me here. I will bought this horse from you. That's what said, okay. And the Holy Prophet went. But at that time, other people came, other companions and other people in Medina came, and they said, how much is this horse, Aswad? He said, how much do you want to pay for it? They said, we'll place so and so amount. He said, okay, here you go. So he gave the horse to these people, and he took the money. All right? And after some time, the Holy Prophet came and he said, Aswad, where's this horse? I don't see this horse with you. I have brought the money. I have brought the 200 dinar. Where is this horse? And then Aswad says, I gave it. I sold it away. The Holy Prophet says, we had a pact. And of course, we honor this kind of pact in the Sharia. We said, you made a pact, even though I was going to go get the money. I went through all this trouble to find all these dinars, gold coins, to pay for this horse which I wanted. And you have sold it. And Aswad had the audacity to say, oh Muhammad, do you have any witness? He's asking the Prophet of Allah if there's any witness. These are the type of people that we are dealing with, that the Holy Prophet had to deal with. And we still deal with in this day, that they continue to exist, these kinds of human beings. He's saying to the Holy Prophet, oh Muhammad, is there any witness? You see how weak this man's iman is. You see how weak this man's understanding. On the outside, he was a Muslim. On the outside, he followed Islam. On the outside, he was fasting and praying and performing hajj and whatever it is that the Muslims are doing. And then there was one companion from the other side, Khuzaymah al-Ansari, who came and he said, I am the witness. I am the witness to this. I bear witness that this man is not, the Holy Prophet is not lying, and he made this deal with you, and you were supposed to do this. And Khuzaymah got the title of Dhul Shahadatain, the man of two witnesses. But when he was asked, when Khuzaymah was asked by Aswad, who was the horse seller, did you witness this? Were you there? He said, no, I was not there. But I know that the man who has brought this Holy Quran cannot be lying. I know that a man who has brought this Quran from the ghaib, which has absolutely no inconsistencies, which is a perfect book, which makes complete sense, which is a book of guidance, which is a book of knowledge, that book, that man cannot be lying. And that is when the title of Dhul Shahadatain was given to this companion of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Salawat ala Muhammad wa alayhi. What happened to the horse? I don't know the rest of the story. But the point is that certain type of people existed, and the bringing of the Holy Quran turned a certain kind of Bedouin Arab into that person who completely believed and understood in the message of the Holy Prophet. Now I want to come to this use of the Holy Quran, which we mentioned earlier on. The problem today, my brothers and sisters, in our thinking, the problem today in our understanding is that we separate Islam and whatever it is that we want to study. Okay? When you go and study medicine, are you studying Islam? Yes or no? In a way, okay. But are you directly studying Islam? No, you're not. Are you studying the principles of Islam? No, you're not. When you go and study law and criminal justice system, you study Islam? No, you do not study that directly. So we have in our minds this distinction between Islam and whatever it is that we study, which is a very modern thing, which happened after the Enlightenment and so on in Europe. Fine, good. There was a time in the world, in the Islamic world, where there was no distinction between those two things. And I will come to my point. There was no distinction between these two things. Now, let me ask you this. Does the sun revolve around the earth or the earth revolves around the sun? Which one is it? My young brothers and sisters, huh? The earth revolves around the sun. Okay. But when we trace back the history of this conception, this discovery that the earth's behind the... Who discovered this? Who was that person? The European scientist? Yes. It wasn't Galileo exactly, close. It was Copernicus. Thank you, Copernicus. And we know, and recently there was an article published in an academic journal, that Copernicus got this hint, or got all the work, mathematical work, to make his conclusion of his theory from one person whose name was Ibn Shatir. Ibn Shatir was a Muslim from the city of Damascus. And the occupation of Ibn Shatir, mind you, who was a scientist, who was a mathematician, who was an astronomer, astrologer, and all those things that go with discovery of the planets, was that he used to live in the masjid, and he was a muwaqqit of the masjid. That means he was a timekeeper of the mosque in Damascus. You understand? Ibn Shatir, and this is not something we are making up. There's an academic article published very recently in the past 2 years, which talks about the knowledge of Ibn Shatir going to Copernicus and leading to this discovery. And what is the point I'm trying to make here? The point I'm trying to make here is that after the purification that we spoke about, all knowledge comes from this book. It's a very big claim to make. We'll say, well, this is in Arabic, we don't understand it. He speaks about laws, he speaks about wars we were never witness to, he speaks about different things, about divorce. How is all knowledge coming from this book? All knowledge is coming from this book because it sets up a system of purification. It sets up a system of knowledge, which you and I today, not back then, not in the 15th century, today, 2014, can participate in and understand. And when we do that, then we become like this Ibn Shatir, who understands the relationship. Who was in the masjid? That was his job. And are you telling me that a man who has taken up a job as a timekeeper in the mosque is not aware of the Quran? Is that possible? No, that's not possible that he's not aware of the Holy Quran. He's in the masjid, that's his job. 24 hours he lives there, and wherever the time changes, he has to make the public announcement by ringing the bell or whatever it is that he used to do. And he came up with this theory which they went to Europe and the discovery that we had. Salawat ala Muhammad wa
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
I want to speak about 2 or 3 things briefly before we finish about these discoveries that we find in the Holy Quran, which will make it a little bit more relevant to you. We see that today in science there are a few theories which are very big, okay? And those theories have already clashed with Christianity and Christian religion and Christian history. One of them is this idea of the Big Bang, correct? Everyone hears about this Big Bang theory, which says that the earth came about after a Big Bang and is also in constant expansion and constant movement. This is what the theory of the scientists is. And they have some proof for it. On the other hand, in Christianity, there are some Christians who say, no, we do not believe in this Big Bang. We do not believe in the evolution that happened after it. We believe in creationism completely. We believe that time is, God created this and this and this and this, and it completely happened. There is no initial Big Bang that happened. There are some Christian scientists that say. You go back to the Holy Quran, Surah number 21, Surah Anbiya. Surah number 21, verses 30 to 34, or 29 to 34. Please read that. That is your homework for today. Surah 21, verses 29 to 34. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that have the faithless not regarded that the heavens and the earth were interwoven and we unraveled them and we made every living thing out of water. This is what the Holy Quran says. He says, أَوَلَمْ يَرَى الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ كَانَتَا رَتْقًا. They were together, woven together, and we expanded them, like a cloth is expanded and opened. So the Quran is speaking about something which you and I today understand as the Big Bang and the Big Bang theory. وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. And we made everything alive out of water. Is it not water in science today the basis of all life? Correct? When we go to Mars and we send these expensive billion-dollar rovers and such not to Mars and other places, we are looking for signs of life, which is water. That is the biggest discussion in science today, is it not? Is there water on these different planets? Is there water on this planet? Is there water on that planet? That means there might be some signs of life. That means maybe we can go and live there. Right? So that is the same thing with the Holy Quran. The Holy Quran is speaking about these truths and realities. Salawat ala Muhammad wa alayhi.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
The second concept, briefly, in the same set of verses I want to share with you, is this question of earthquakes. There's a big debate whether earthquakes are, what is the relationship between earthquakes and mountains, okay? And there's a claim, some of you might have heard, that the mountains are the pegs on the earth that are holding the earth, and because the mountains are holding the earthquakes don't happen. This is a claim that's made in science about Islam, which is actually not true. The Quran never claims that the mountains are those that are holding down the earth. The Quran doesn't claim that. There's a relationship between earthquakes and mountains, which is that the mountains are results of the earthquakes. And the Holy Quran says that we have made, the mountains have come about so that the earth does not sway, does not move. That means that the mountains are part of a very important topography or geology or whatever it is that you want to call in this earth. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that without the mountains, you would not be able to walk on the earth. That the earth would sway, that the earth would move in a certain way, not necessarily an earthquake, but the earth would not be livable for you. So this is another aspect of modern science that the Holy Quran is speaking about. And so on and so on and so on, that the night and the day these verses talk about. But what I want to stress to you is that the mistake that we make today is, after speaking about purification, we put science and Islam parallel to each other. First mistake we make is that we don't look for knowledge in this. And secondly, when we look for knowledge, we say, oh, the Quran is a book of science. Oh, the Quran is a book of geology. Oh, the Quran is a book of literature. I disagree with you. When we said that the Quran is speaking about earthquakes, or the Quran is speaking about, thank you for that. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali. I think somebody turned up the heat on us, so they want us to leave a little early. But inshallah we'll stay. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
Oh, we're speaking about the Big Bang Theory. What I'm trying to mention to you is that the Quran is a book of guidance. That guidance in our time comes through science. If science changes, that doesn't mean that the Quran is invalid. You understand? If science is valid, stay with me here, and the Quran is speaking about science, therefore the Quran is valid. That's false logic. Because tomorrow science will say something else. Science changes, right? Yesterday they said eggs are good for you, today they're saying eggs are bad for you, tomorrow they're going to say eggs are good. Make up your mind, it's breakfast, I have to eat. You understand? So the point is, when science changes, that also our value of the Quran changes. That's wrong. You must look for knowledge in the Holy Quran, but you must not look for validation of your sciences. You must learn from, oh, Quran is talking about this. Maybe we understand it today, maybe we don't understand it today. But we always try to find the answers in these verses of the Holy Quran. We always try to find the answers in the light of the Holy Quran. We always try to find where the Holy Quran is speaking about these big things, which includes the Big Bang, which includes evolution, which includes all those things of science that we find today. We try to find answers in the Quran. That doesn't mean that science is valid right now, and that doesn't mean that because science is valid, the Quran is also valid. No. Understand that the science is one aspect of knowledge which we derive from the Holy Quran, and the Holy Quran is greater and higher and more everlasting than the science which we have today, which tomorrow will change by its own nature. Salawat ala Muhammad wa alayhi.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
So this is what I attempted to do today. Inshallah, we understood the aspect of purification, and we understood the importance of the Holy Quran, and we must be like those followers of the Ahlul Bayt, like Fizza, who was one of the servants of the Ahlul Bayt, who for 20 years spoke only in the Holy Quran. You can go and find this, and you can Google this. This is your other homework for today, about Fizza and the Holy Quran. And every single, you see it in one event, she gets lost in the desert, and one man comes to speak to her and to find out who she was, and their long conversation from the desert into the city, into the place where she finds her son, is only through the Holy Quran. 20, 30, 40 questions that he's asking her, she's answering only through the Holy Quran. And finally, when they reach the place, it seems that her son is there, and those people, and he asks her, who is your son? What is his name? And she says, again from the Holy Quran, قَالَ إِنِّي عَبْدُ اللَّهِ آتَانِيَ الْكِتَابَ وَجَعَلْنِي نَبِيًّا, which is what Nabi Isa said. But he says, قَالَ إِنِّي عَبْدُ اللَّهِ, which means the name of her son is Abdullah. And so on and so on. And you can go and look at this dialogue where the Quran is extremely interwoven with the Ahlul Bayt and identity and understanding of the Ahlul Bayt. This is very important, my brothers and sisters, that we treat this book not as something in a foreign language, not as something which is just a ritual which we have to read, but we treat this book as something which can give us the answers to whatever it is what we're looking for. And that is very important, that has to happen. After we have a purification of our nafs, after we have a purification of our minds, after we have a purification of ourselves, then only are we able to grasp and understand this meaning of the Holy Quran. Salawat ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
So tomorrow is Hussein Day, and we come now to the commemoration of this great tragedy that fell about Abdullah Hussein and the Ahlul Bayt in their trial and in their journey and in their activity to spread the message of the Holy Quran, to spread the message of Islam, to spread the true message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all humankind, to giving them knowledge. And we say together, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdillah, Assalamu alayka ya ibna Rasulillah, alaykum minna jami'an salamullah, abadan ma baqina wa baqiya al-layla wan-nahar. My brothers and sisters, let us go back in our minds to this journey that the Ahlul Bayt are facing between Kufa and Damascus. Between Kufa and Damascus, when the Ahlul Bayt are moving from one place to the other, they are treated in different ways, and the propaganda that is spread against them, that these are revolutionaries, these are people who attacked Islam, these are people who disobeyed the ruler, and that is why they were killed. That is why their women were made into prisoners. That is why their heads were separated from their bodies. That is why they were attacked and their tents were burned. And the people were not given the appropriate information about the Ahlul Bayt. And it falls upon Imam Sajjad, the Imam of the time, the successor of Abdullah Hussein, to clarify at every station and at every point to everyone who wants to question who they are and what is it that they are doing. I would say this is the most painful task that Imam Sajjad had. This is the most brutal task that Imam Sajjad had. That despite the fact that there were chains in his legs, despite the fact that his neck and his hands were chained together, despite the fact that the Ahlul Bayt were made to sit on camels and other animals with no sandals or protection upon them, Imam Sajjad has to repeat every single time who Hussein is. Imam Sajjad has to repeat at every mention of water. We see that Imam Sajjad turns back toward Karbala and he says, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdillah. He says, Assalamu alayka ya ibna Rasulillah. He says, oh my father Hussein, we are prisoners, but we are drinking water. But yesterday on the day of Ashura, you gave up your life. You gave up everything you had, but there was no water for you. There was no comfort for you, oh Hussein. No one suffered like you suffered, oh my father. And Imam Sajjad moves from one station to the other. He goes from one place to the other with the caravan. And at one point, he reaches the court of Yazid. And some people are trying to find out who these captives are. They're saying, you look like a noble person. Who are you? And at one point Imam Sajjad says, wait for some time, I will tell you who I am. And the azan continues. When the azan begins, when the muazzin says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Imam Sajjad turns to the man and he says, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah. and I am the Imam, and I am the Hujjah of this God on this earth upon you. And when the Muazzin says, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, then we see that there are tears in the eyes of Imam Sajjad. And the man asks, why is it that I see you crying, O prisoner? And Imam Sajjad says, do you not know who Muhammad was? Do you not know that I am the great grandson of Muhammad? Do you not know that my father Hussein, whose head is on the spear, he was the grandson of Muhammad? That these lips of Abu Abdullah, to which Yazid has the audacity to hit with a stick, these lips were those that kissed the cheeks of this Muhammad that you are calling your prophet. Do you not know that this Hayya ala Salah and Hayya al Falah are those actions which were established by my grandfather Ali? Do you not realize who we are? And this is how, my brothers and sisters, the Ahlul Bayt spread their message and spread their knowledge, even though when they were captives. And this is how Yazid lost in his own house and in his own court and his own place. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ أَيِّ مُنْقَلِبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ. With tears in our eyes, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our amal, to forgive our sins, to make us from the companions of the Imam of our time, to give us the tawfiq to have purity of our hearts and the knowledge of the Holy Quran in our minds, to unite the Muslim Ummah and to remove the diseases of the Muslim Ummah from outside and inside, and to destroy the enemies of the Muslim Ummah, and to make us the true followers of the Ahlul Bayt and the Holy Quran. Ya Hussein.
Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein.